consultant pen testing, or rather bug bounty as well. It's something that you'll find yourself using pretty frequently. That being said, let's go ahead and dive right into Task 1, Introduction. So it looks like this room was created by B. Sexan. The B is one of the mods on the Discord, as well as the lead mod for the TryHackMe subreddit. Definitely recommend go and check both of those out if you are not in one or both of them. And you can follow them here for more content. And it looks like B also has a blog post on Shodan. So Shodan.io is a search engine for the Internet of Things. Ever wondered how you find publicly accessible CCTV cameras? What about finding out how many pie holes are publicly accessible? Or whether your coffee or your office coffee maker or a machine is on the internet rather? Shodan.io is the answer. Shodan scans the whole internet and indexes the services run on each IP address. Note, if you are following along, you'll need a Shodan Premium account. I do have one, and I will log in here in a moment so we can just use my premium and you guys can see what it would look like. So a couple quick notes. Shodan, it is a standalone scanning service that will scan the entire internet. It is great if you don't want to actually scan a target or can't. This is passive because Shodan's doing the scanning, not you. And you're not interacting with the target in that way, just viewing what Shodan has already collected. A couple words of warning. Shodan, if you have something connected to the internet, like just a random website that you're hosting off of a Raspberry Pi, that is accessible on the internet, it will show up on Shodan, so just something to be aware of. It's one of the main reasons why you don't want to put stuff out on the internet that is either vulnerable or isn't fully up to date. Just something to be aware of, because it will pop up on here. The other thing to be aware of is you won't necessarily know what you're going to run into on Shodan. You're going to see a lot of whatever is showing on the screen or whatever's up. Sometimes that's up on an RDP instance. Just be aware, sometimes you don't get the most PG-13 content if you're following along with that. It's pretty rare to have something happen like that, but again, this is scanning the entire internet, so just be aware of it. Finding services. Let's say we're performing a pen test on a company. We want to find out what services run on, or one of their servers run. We need to grab their IP address. We can do that using ping. So for example, if we were to ping TryHackMe.com, this is going to answer with one of, since TryHackMe has Cloudflare in front of it, it's going to answer with the Cloudflare IP address, and it's going to come back with that. Once we do this, we can put the IP address into Shodan, and we can get this. And let me go ahead. I'm going to pause right here real quick. I'm going to log into my Shodan account, and we can take a look as well. And we're back. All right, I've gone ahead and logged into Shodan. I have a premium account from Shodan. Does a sale almost every year that you can get a premium account for $1. That's usually around Black Friday, so just keep an eye out for that. It usually pops up in the yearly Black Friday deals threads that you'll find on the on Reddit, especially within the IT services. This is great even if you're not a pen tester. If you work for a company and you don't know necessarily everything that's out on the internet, but you do know what your IP space is, you can take a look through Shodan and just see what Shodan has seen. That being said, let's go ahead and take that address and we'll type it in over here. 10 or 104, 26, 10, not what I wanted, 22. And here we can see that, sure enough, this is exactly what we expected. This is TryHackMe, but again, it's going through Cloudflare, which is what we expect to hit. So we're seeing that Cloudflare is accepting connections on 80 and 443. That's what we would expect from a web server. 80 is going to be a redirect link. That is typically, if you try to connect to a website on HTTP, it's going to say, you can connect, but I'm going to move you over to 443, and it'll secure your connection, and that's what we can see in this specific case. And sure enough, in 443, we can see that we get a 200 response rather than forbidden with this, and that means that we're accepting connections on the secure port, not the insecure port, and again, what we expect. And everything else down here is just going to be different certificate information. I'm not really sure what's going on with these high ports. It looks like it's a bunch of garbage, and even then that's something that, it looks like they're all blocked as forbidden anyway, so nothing really of interest. But we can see that Cloudflare, again, has their SSL certificates on this, so it means that we're passing through Cloudflare. All right, ours looks a little bit different from that. We have a lot more technologies that show up. So we can see that TryHackMe runs on Cloudflare in the United States, and they have many ports open. And it looks like our port selection, we have a few more than this, about the same. Cloudflare acts as a proxy between TryHackMe and their real servers. If we were pen testing a large company, this isn't very helpful. We need a way to get their IP address. And we can do this using ASNs, or Autonomous System Numbers. So Autonomous System Numbers. An ASN is a global identifier of a range of IP addresses. If you're an enormous company like Google, you likely have your own ASN for all of the IP addresses you own. Think of this as a bucket that all of your IP addresses live in. It's a way that we can label blocks of the internet and who owns them. Amazon has several ASNs from what I'm aware. They just have a ton of infrastructure. Google does as well. I know Facebook has a lot of ASNs. As you're doing research specifically for bug bounty, you'll see a lot of demos like Jason Haddix has in his methodology talk. He will show how to get ASNs usually for Twitch or for Tesla, and you'll see that most of these companies own at minimum one, usually a couple ASNs, if not more. So ASN, we can put the IP address into an ASN lookup tool, such as, and we'll take a look at that in a moment, which tells us they have ASN 14061, and we can go ahead. We'll take the IP address from here. We'll just take it from the end of our URL. Maybe. Copy. And then we'll paste this in here. I'm going to make this a little bit. Bigger for you guys, and we can see that again it's owned by Cloudflare. Nothing really interesting there. I'm not seeing specifically where we're getting our ASN number. However, we're seeing that it again is owned by Cloudflare. Not really useful to us. So let's see. TryHackMe is in a mega large corporation, so we don't have our own ASN. That is because most of our infrastructure is burnable and it sits on AWS anyways, which it's constantly changing, as you've seen from everything's private anyways. It's just on internal networks. When we Google AS14061, we can see it is a DigitalOcean ASN number. We did have some stuff on DigitalOcean for a little while, and that's why that's popping up. On Shodan.io, we can search using the ASN filter. This is ASN : and then the number, where number is the number we got earlier, which is AS14061. So we can go ahead and take that, and we'll take a look over here, and ASN, paste that in. And let's see. Oh, no space. That'll do it. There we go. So we can see everything that's owned by the ASN, and there is a lot of results. This is what we expect. Cloudflare is massive. They have a lot of IP addresses because they have to route everything through, and they do load balancing specifically when attacks are happening. Doing this, we can see a whole range of 6.2 million websites, in fact, that are on one single ASN. And in this specific case, we can see that it was a little bit lower at 5.7, but I mean, even then, that's still an absolute ton. We can see the example feedback here. Interesting things that I'm seeing right away. This Nextcloud floating on DigitalOcean, that's interesting. And that's something that Nextcloud is a private cloud that you can host yourself, and that's something that if I were pen testing a large company, this would stick out immediately. Knowing the ASM is helpful because we can search Shodan for things such as coffee makers or vulnerable computers with immediately. Knowing the ASM is helpful because we can search Shodan for things such as coffee makers or vulnerable computers within our ASN, which we know, if we are a large company, is on our network. Sometimes when you plug a coffee maker into the wall, if you're working for a really big company, if the internet's not configured up correctly, that coffee maker will beacon itself out to the internet and have a public IP. That's a little bit more rare, but it happens. Getting started. Time to dig in. If you're stuck, look at the previous task for some help. So banners. To get the most out of Shodan, it is important to understand the search query syntax. That's just what we're typing in the search bar in this specific case. Devices run services, and Shodan stores information about them. The information is stored in a banner. This is also what Nmap does when it does banner grabbing, and that's how we get the base information about what service is running. It's the most fundamental part of Shodan. So an example banner looks like this, and this is just a JSON bunch of data. It looks like we have Moxa import device, authentication disabled. That's interesting from the get-go. We have the name. This is something that we would look up to see if there's a specific device from this company, the StarHub Mobile, that if that's a naming convention, if we can find out what generation that is, we can usually find quite a bit more. This has our IP address, the MAC address, and then the port, as well as it looks like a country code. So we're looking at the output of a single port, which includes information about the IP and authentication details. You don't really see this outside of the API, so we won't delve into this. And again, we didn't see that on Shodan when we were looking. It's just good to know what this is looking for, or looked like, rather. So we'll go ahead and mark this as complete and dive into task 2, getting started. Time to dig in. If you get stuck, look at the previous task for some help. What is Google's ASN number? We can look up google.com, and I'm sure we're going to find it here. Just a nice 1 million results. Let me go ahead. I will search for this in just a second, and I'll be right back with our answer. All right, we're back. We're going to go ahead and try this. So going back to our ASN lookup tool, I noticed that it takes company name. If we go to Google, it looks like Google owns a number of ASNs. Oh, there's our ASN number. So this is likely the ASN that we are looking for. If we take that, we can put that back in.
मतलब ये हम लोग का फॉल्ट नहीं है कि किसी ने पब्लिक करके रखा है। अगर किसी के घर का सीसीटीवी कैमरा उन्होंने पब्लिक करके रखा है और कोई देख रहा है, सो इसमें कोई अनलीगल या इलीगल एक्टिविटी नहीं है। ये वो हम लोग को आई गेस वो करना होगा, तो अकाउंट बनाना होगा। सॉरी। सो आई गेस इसका आंसर होगा माई एसक्यूएल सर्वर के लिए। हाँ, यही पे हम लोगों ने देखा था, आंसर यही होगा, इधर ही आसपास ही होगा। गूगल का तो देखते हैं, ये नहीं होगा आई नो, फॉर्मेट में तो देखना है। व्हाट इज द टॉप ऑपरेटिंग सिस्टम फॉर माई एसक्यूएल सर्वर्स इन गूगल ASN? What is the second most popular country for MySQL servers in Google's ASN? देखना पड़ेगा ये शो एंड अलाउ करता है कि नहीं। पहला वाला अलाउ नहीं करेगा, मेरा वो अकाउंट नहीं है। एक मिनट देखते हैं कॉपी करके। हम लोग को लॉग इन करना ही पड़ेगा। ठीक है, मैं लॉग इन करके देख लेता हूँ।
With Google. Hint or helpful hint, pay close attention to what the question is asking you. What is the top operating system for MySQL servers in Google's ASN? So if we take this, we can go ahead and go back here. Servers in Google's ASN. So if we take this, we can go ahead and go back here. And we will click on that. Product. Let's see, MySQL. And we'll see what we get. And it looks like top version. Here's some interesting things. Let's see what else we've got. Top operating system for MySQL servers in Google's ASN. Top versions, I would imagine it's going to be that. So let's click into there. And let's see if this fits. Maybe. We'll give it a moment. Let's copy that over. There we go. What is the second most popular country for MySQL servers in Google's ASN? I'm going to guess this is probably China. Nope, it's the Netherlands. That's an interesting one. A lot of infrastructure is either hosted in the United States or in China. It just depends on where you're at. A lot of that is specifically because China has its own copy of a lot of the internet because of the Great Firewall of China. Just something to be aware of. You're going to see this happen a lot where there is a Chinese copy of a site and then there's an American or the rest of the world copy of the site. Duplicates, so be aware of that. Worthwhile testing. But you'll see or Nginx. Hypertext Transfer Protocol or Hypertext Transfer Protocol without SSL or with SSL. Judging by this, it looks like it's going to be the first one. Let's go ahead and take this though. Let's see, under Google's ASN, so we do still care about that, and we want a product of Nginx. Let's see what we get. It looks like it's going to be HTTP, so that'll be Hypertext Transfer Protocol. We can copy that. Let's see what we get. organizations. Let's see if we can drill down into the United States and see what we've got. Top cities, Kansas City. I know there are a lot of data. Hold on. We're going to pause for a second while I figure out what's going on with this. Did I spell Kansas wrong? Hold on. We're going to pause for a second. So that's not terribly surprising. Did I spell Kansas wrong? Hold on. We're going to pause for a second while I figure out what's going on with this. All right, we're back. It wanted the last one on there, which doesn't make sense because it looks like it's Kansas City to me. And as I mentioned, I know that there are a lot of data hosting facilities in Kansas City and Council Bluffs. This is not terribly far from me, so I know that they've put in a lot of... I think Facebook actually just put in a data... Los Angeles. What is the top operating system according to Shodan? That looks like Windows, but we're going to check. Let's see. So we'll click into this, and I'm going to change this to LA. Let's see if I spelled that correctly. Operating system. Oh well, now we know. Using the top webcam search from the Explore page, does Google's ASN have any webcams? We'll go ahead and grab this. I'm going to pause the video just because I don't know what will come up from the webcam search, and I will be back and report on it once that is done. All right. Looks. Looks like Google does not have any. Let's jump into task 5, Shodan Monitor. Shodan Monitor is an application for monitoring your devices in your own network. In their words, keep track of the devices that you have exposed to the internet, set up notifications, launch scans, and gain complete visibility into what you have connected. Very cool. Previously, we had to do this using their API, but now we have this fancy application. You can access the dashboard via this link, and we'll take a look at that in a moment, and you'll see it asking for an IP range. And it looks like we have it there. And if I wanted to, I could get that all set up. Once we add a network, we can see it in our dashboard, and you can see that it looks like this has been added as the name of Nmap, and then we have it in our dashboard here. If we click on the settings cog over here, we can see that we have a range of scans Shodan performs against our network. So we have trigger rules. It looks like we have industrial control system. Definitely something you want to keep an eye out on and make sure that it's not exposed on the internet. Internet scanner, IoT, malware. So a lot of malware will beacon out on a very specific port, and it is something that Shodan will track. New service, open database, SSL expired. Another common problem that organizations have is a lot of times someone forgets to pay the bill and the SSL certificate expires. Uncommon and then vulnerable. So triggers real quick. Triggers are rules that when they're met cause Shodan to send you a notification. So it looks like these are the different scans we're running. And then if we hit one of these criteria, it is going to send us an email. So for example, if the malware trigger will send you an email if your service looks like it has been compromised or is running malware software. I might actually set this up on my home network. That is very cool. Anytime Shodan detects a security vulnerability in one of these categories, it will email us. If we go to the dashboard again, we can see that it lays some things out for us. And you can see that it looks like we have the services, notable ports if there were anything interesting here, any vulnerabilities that we saw exposed to the internet, potential vulnerabilities. These are things that are not concerned, but it thinks that might be there and are worth researching, and then notable IP addresses, which in this case we've only added one to this dashboard, so we aren't really going to see anything. And this is stuff that I just talked about. The interesting part is that you can actually monitor other people's networks using this. For bug bounties, you can save a list of IPs, and Shodan will email you if it finds any problems. Very cool, definitely something that is worthwhile to look into. And you can see that this is a premium product, but again, keep an eye out for Black Friday deals. Having a Shodan premium account is definitely something that you want as a pen tester, and will save you a lot of headaches. What URL takes you to the Shodan monitor? We're gonna go ahead and grab that right here. Plop that in there. let's jump into task 6, Shodan dorking. Shodan has some lovely web pages with dorks that allow us to find things. So this is very similar to Google dorking, but we can dig through this and just find interesting things on the internet using these combination of search terms. Their search example web pages feature some. So some other ones include hat screenshot, true encrypted attention, which uses optical character recognition and remote desktop to find machines compromised by ransomware on the internet. So very cool. This is actually looking to see if it has a screenshot that's available, so we can actually see the desktop. If the machine looks like it's encrypted and it looks like it warrants attention, I'm guessing. Or this is looking for these, I'm guessing this is looking for these 2 words actually on the screen. So encrypted shows up, which is something that malware is going to show up on your REPE screen anyways, and then attention will be the warning thing that pops up as well. It says, attention, you need to pay so-and-so amount of Bitcoin to unlock your data. And you can see that there's one specific thing that came out here from that scan. So screenshot.label, ICS, that is going to be industrial control systems. It looks like it's cut off a little bit for me, but you can see that there's a screenshot there of an industrial control system website. Vuln CVE 2014-0160, internet connected machines vulnerable to Heartbleed. Note CVE search is only allowed to academic or business subscribers, so we can't actually do that one. SolarWinds supply chain attack by using favicons. So one thing that not a lot of people realize, you can take the hash of a favicon and see what other sites have the same favicon. Usually those sites are going to be owned by the same owner. This is really useful in the reconnaissance stage of bug bounty. I believe Jason Haddix also talks about this in his methodology talk. What dork lets us find PCs infected by ransomware? We can scroll up. This is a really interesting one and definitely something that is worthwhile playing around with just to see what's out there. And there we go. Let's jump into task 7, Shodan extension. Shodan also has an extension, and this is something that I will be checking out here in a little bit because I think I forgot to install this on Chrome, or my version of Chrome. When installed, you can click on it. It'll tell you the IP address of the web server running, what ports are open, where it's based, and if it has any security issues. Really, really cool. This is definitely something that I recommend running in alongside Wapalizer or built with, because it'll give you a pretty, from the surface or from a glance, comprehensive view of what you are working with. Pretty running in alongside Wapalizer or built with, because it'll give you a pretty, from the surface or from a glance, comprehensive view of what you are working with. So there we can see the extension. I would imagine this probably has a Firefox equivalent, so definitely worth checking out. I imagine this is a good extension for any people interested in bug bounties. Yep, absolutely. Being quickly able to tell if a system looks vulnerable or not based on the Shodan output. Yeah, definitely worthwhile checking out, and this is actually something that I'm going to install right after this video because I forgot to do that. So PS, that's the official image for the extension. Ooh, that's a little blurry. Either way, worthwhile checking out. Definitely something you want to dive into. We'll mark that as complete and dive into Task 8, Exploring the API and Conclusion. Shodan.io has an API. It requires an account, so I won't talk about it here. And we mentioned this a little bit earlier. If you want to explore the Shodan API, definitely check out this blog post that was mentioned earlier. Again, I will have this in the video description below, and I'll link Jason Haddix's talk, his latest one at the time of recording, so that you can view a little bit more of what goes into the reconnaissance phase of bug bounty hunting. The API lets us programmatically search Shodan and receive a list of IP addresses in return. If we're a company, we can write a script to check over our IP addresses and see if any of them are vulnerable. PS, you can automatically filter on Shodan by clicking things in the left bar that was over here, and then read the blog post above. Definitely worthwhile checking out, and we're going to go ahead and mark that as complete, and that'll do it for the Shodan room. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to me on YouTube and follow me on Twitter. Otherwise, I will see you guys next time, and happy hacking!